Seneca spent years teaching Rome that pleasure was dangerous, that comfort made men weak, that indulgence rotted the soul faster than any disease ever could. And then he would go home to one of the richest households in the empire, pour a cup of wine most senators couldn't afford, and enjoy it without a flicker of the guilt he preached against every single day. How does a man write hundreds of pages warning you away from pleasure and still know exactly how to enjoy his own life? If you've ever bought something you didn't need and immediately talked yourself out of feeling good about it, or taken a day off and spent half of it feeling like you should be working, you already know the tension Seneca lived inside every day. He wasn't hiding from that feeling. He was one of the wealthiest men in Rome, advisor to an emperor, and he still felt the pull between what he had earned and what he thought he deserved to enjoy. The question worth asking isn't whether Seneca was a hypocrite for living well while preaching restraint. It's this: what test did he actually use to tell the difference between pleasure that was fine to enjoy and pleasure that was quietly taking something from him? By the end of this video, you'll have that exact test, and you'll understand why the line between guilt and joy was never really about the wine, the money, or the villa at all. Start with the plain facts. Seneca was not a poor philosopher lecturing from a cave. He was one of the richest men in the Roman Empire. He owned multiple estates. He hosted dinners other senators gossiped about for weeks, and at the exact same time, he was writing letter after letter, warning his friend Lucilius that luxury softens a man, that comfort is a slow poison, that a person who needs fine food and expensive wine to feel content has already lost something important. Rome noticed the contradiction before we did. Critics of his time accused him openly of preaching poverty from a palace. You've probably felt a smaller version of this yourself. Maybe you've told yourself you're focused on saving money, and then felt a strange guilt after one nice dinner out. Maybe you've said you're taking your health seriously, and then felt like a failure after one relaxed weekend. The gap between what we believe we should want and what we actually enjoy is not new. Seneca lived inside that exact gap. He just lived inside it in a much bigger house. Here's what most people miss about the Stoics, and it's the part that gets left out of almost every summary of their philosophy. The Stoics did not believe pleasure itself was the enemy. They made a distinction most people never hear about between what they called mere pleasure, a feeling that depends on something outside you and pulls at you until you give in, and what they called joy, a feeling that comes from inside you and doesn't own you. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, still made time to wrestle, to walk, to read simply for the pleasure of reading. He never once wrote that this made him weak. What worried the Stoics was never enjoying your life. It was needing to. The difference isn't in the wine glass. It's in whether you could set it down tomorrow and feel nothing but fine. Think about the last thing you scrolled through at midnight, not because you wanted to, but because stopping felt harder than continuing. That is the feeling Seneca was actually warning you about. Not fun, dependency, wearing fun's clothing. And for Seneca, this was never just a philosophical thought experiment. It was survival. He served as advisor to Nero, one of the most unstable and paranoid rulers Rome ever produced. Wealth in that court wasn't only comfort, it was a target. Every villa, every dinner, every visible sign of pleasure could be read by enemies as evidence of greed, disloyalty, or ambition. His own fortune would later be used against him. In the year 65, accused of conspiring against Nero, Seneca was ordered to take his own life. The very indulgence he had spent decades quietly defending became, in the end, exactly the kind of evidence his enemies pointed to first. So when Seneca wrote about testing whether pleasure controlled him, he wasn't being cautious just for the sake of being cautious. He knew that in his world, enjoying life without losing yourself to it wasn't only good philosophy. It was one of the only things standing between him and disaster. So what was the actual test? In his letters, Seneca describes a habit that sounds strange until you understand exactly why he did it. Every so often, on purpose, with nothing forcing him to, he would set aside a few days to live like he had nothing. Plain food, rough clothes, a hard bed instead of a soft one. Not as punishment, as a rehearsal. He wanted to know, in his own body, that if the wealth disappeared tomorrow, he would still be fine. Only after he proved that to himself would he go back to the wine, the villa, the comfortable bed, and enjoy every bit of it without the quiet fear underneath it. That was the entire test. Not, do I deserve this? But could I lose this and still be okay? If the answer was yes, the pleasure was safe to enjoy fully. If the answer was no, if the thought of losing it made him anxious, that was the signal that something had quietly taken control of him instead of the other way around. Picture Seneca at his table, glass in hand, just days after eating plain bread on purpose to prove to himself he didn't need any of it. Now, picture yourself tonight, ordering the thing you actually want and eating it without opening your phone to justify it to anyone, including yourself. Nearly 2,000 years apart, the exact same quiet negotiation with guilt. And here is the part that reframes everything you just heard. Seneca never taught his readers to feel guilty about pleasure. That accusation is the one people threw at him from the outside, and it is the one modern readers still make by mistake. What he actually taught was that guilt is not a moral alarm. It's an attachment alarm. It doesn't go off because you're enjoying something. It goes off because some part of you already suspects you couldn't survive without it. Which means the fix was never to enjoy less. It was to build a life sturdy enough that losing any single pleasure wouldn't be the thing that broke you. Once that was true, Seneca didn't need to feel guilty about the villa, the wine, or the wealth. He had already proven, on purpose, in plain food and rough clothes, that none of it owned him. That's how a man who wrote more about restraint than almost anyone in history could still fully enjoy his own success. He didn't earn permission to enjoy his life by giving it up. He earned it by proving again and again that he could. But this same habit, practicing loss on purpose before it ever arrived, would be tested in a way Seneca never expected. Because a few years after writing about giving up wine and soft beds for a few days at a time, Nero would ask him to give up something no rehearsal could prepare him for. And how Seneca faced that final morning is a very different story.